fucking amazing for the last 10
years. Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
The series versus the Stars, a lot of people expect it to be the best series out of any series in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoff. All eyes from the hockey world are going to be on the Avalanche and the Dallas Stars for a myriad of reasons. You have the tiny threads of stories, Duchesne, Rantanen, history. You think of back-to-back Western Conference final losses, even though that seems like ancient history now. I think for Avalanche fans and the Avalanche front office, time to turn the tide. So not only do you have the personal stories inside the series, possible return of your captain, you have two of the top 5 teams in the National Hockey League overall in a first-round matchup. I think it's the marquee series in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I am here today so far with Brendan Vogt and Jackie K. I think that Evan Liu will be joining us as well as Ezra Parter. Have to check my chat. We shall see. But you know what? I'll take what I can get right now. Jackie and Brendan, thank you so much for joining me, folks. Thank you to the 41 in view. Oh, and look at that. Ask it, you shall receive. Evan Liu, thank you for joining the program in the Mile High Hockey Lab Playoff Edition, as this will be the 101 episode for the Mile High Hockey Lab. And I've titled it The Blizzard in Big D, because we're heading out to Dallas for a playoff series against the Dallas Stars. That is the Colorado Avalanche. And boy, am I excited. We have a lot to touch on today. We will preview the series. We will preview each position group. We will give our wild cards, our X factors, give our predictions, and then finish things off with bold predictions as well. So let's drop the puck on episode 101. Head on over to our website, check out all the playoff preview stuff we have there. And yeah, let's do this. Let's start with you, Jackie. Jackie, it feels like, as we heard from one Mr. Connor McGahey in the intro today, thank you to the Colorado Avalanche for putting that out, and Connor for putting that out. What a wonderful hype video that is. Got me going. Where are you at in terms of the storylines here? Which is the most intriguing storyline to you, Jackie, among the Mikko Rantanen, the Matt Duchesne, the Landeskog return, the Sagan return? What are you looking at here? Oh, Jackie, I think you're muted.
You're right. Probably Landeskog returning.
Yeah.
Because that's
whoop, whoop.
You know, it's been a long journey, and there's still a lot unknown there, right? Like, we don't know if when he's back, he's just back and that's it, or are there still going to be more ups and downs? We don't know. So I think that's definitely the story's still to be written there. So it is a big storyline. I would say, as far as the rest, I think it all is. I guess, I don't know. It's weird to touch on the Mikko thing because it seems like everybody's kind of said, all right, like it is what it is and we've all moved on. I don't believe it. So I think that's going to become a bigger storyline as things get going. But as it stands right now today, I don't really think it's that big of a storyline.
Right.
but I also don't really believe that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, as soon as we see, I guess, some extracurricular, as I like to call it, activities after the whistle that might involve Miko. I mean, we've watched Miko his entire career up until this season. We know he's not afraid to be in those skirmishes, and we know that he tends to have a little bit of fire to him at times when the other team is frustrating him. So it will be very interesting for me to see that play out. But I think you're right. Like the Gabe Landeskog thing, it's hard to not look at that as the real storyline to be keying on heading into this first round series. Brendan, you have been in the building along with our very own Ryan O'Hara for the last few practices with the Avalanche. Today I texted, well, you texted me for a little confirmation, but we saw Landeskog at practice today in a maroon sweater, which indicated second line power play 2. But he ended up just being power play 2 in that sweater, and then was in a green sweater on the 5th line, which is Wood, Landeskog, and VC right now, which tells you the Avs' depth. What have you seen from Landeskog in practices leading up to the series?
Well, he's quick.
Yeah.
He's definitely he's starting to get his legs back. And compared to last weekend, he's moving a lot better. I think he's thinking about it a lot less. He's being less hesitant. There was a moment that during when he had to like kind of stop at the blue line to hold up and avoid an offside sign. That's just habit, even during practice. And he did it on the right leg, on the outside edge, which, if you've had knee injuries, is something that you're constantly thinking about.
Right.
He did it without hesitation, and then he sped up immediately. So to me, that's a good indication that he's extremely comfortable doing what he's doing.
Yeah, at least more comfortable than what we saw when he was in Loveland. Not to say that he didn't seem comfortable then, but more comfortable is kind of the key word here. And that's really good news coming from practice. And it's honestly, go ahead, Jackie.
I got to interject real quick.
Yeah.
You can't say maroon. This is the Avalanche.
Burgundy, maroon.
Thank you.
You're right. Touche.
I know it didn't originate from you. It came from the tweets.
Yes, exactly.
But it just like
it's
like,
not called the Maroon Review.
Exactly. It's just like an ice pick in the temple when people say write it as a maroon. I'm like, what team are we covering here?
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay,
but well, I know it didn't originate from you.
No, yeah, and
it's from the tweets.
But shame on me for regurgitating that. But
yes. I gotta tease you guys. It's Burgundy.
Yeah. Well, I jumped the gun a little bit because I was like, okay, I'm gonna go look at a video from practice yesterday and see who else is wearing Burgundy, and that should tell me where they're slotting him in. That's all I can do when I don't have my butt in a seat for the actual practice. So I was like, oh, hey, look, there's Brock Nelson in a Burgundy sweater. I know Brock Nelson is 2C, so he must be on the second line. Well, the explanation for that was Landeskog was, in fact, practicing with the second power play unit. Now, we know, watching the Avalanche, that second power play unit typically gets like 30 seconds, if they get an opportunity. But, Evan, is that promising to see him slotted that far up, at least in terms of special teams, to be valued in the sense of, you got Gabe Landeskog, shouldn't be too stressful for him. Park him in front of the net and let him have a go?
I would say so, because usually it's a good indication, and Brennan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's usually a good indication that if someone's taken power play, lineup, positioning, then they're likely a good option to play, right? And that's the debate too with Landeskog, is like, could he come back for game 1? Or they hold him until game 3 when they're at home? Like I said last week, I think if he's ready to go, send him, because the Avs are going to need all the forward depth help that they can get. So nonetheless, it's a very good option. It's good to see him out there. And they're trying in places, because he hasn't been in this lineup for 3 years, right? Yeah. There's been so much turnover in that 3 years. Does that mean Landeskog is going to get shipped back down to the AHL? No, he's going to be with the Avalanche.
Absolutely.
But he will. They just have to find the right spot for him to work around all the other people that have been brought in, in the last 3 years. That's really about it.
Well, and he, He did everything in Loveland. He did PK, he did power play, even strength. He was doing anything and everything. I think they were trying to test his stamina out, and then try and test his knee. And then he was in front of the net, using his butt to do everything he used to do and get that tip. And what do you know? That's how he ended up getting his goal. So
then I guess my question is, then why are they slow playing it? Like,
I think it's strategic, to be honest with you. I know.
Yes, going into the playoffs, you can't. You
don't just want to give it away.
They're telling the truth.
Well, like Savvy, our esteemed colleague at Hockey Mountain High, has been saying this for months, that she believes that that Landy's gonna be. I think she started saying this like over the summer, that Landy's gonna make the debut at home on the first round of the playoffs, and the reason being is that you want that extra push.
Yeah, I've been saying that since it's become a reality myself.
Yeah. And hey, Screw doing it on the road. Why would you want him to debut? After this long, why would you want him to debut?
Because he's going to help you win. Like, if he's Gabe Landeskog and he's that good.
But it gives him that much more time to get more comfortable in the lineup, practice, and do his thing and get his legs under him. So that's that's almost a week longer to try and do his thing and feel more comfortable at a practice rate pace. And trust me, when it comes to skating, that's a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, to Jackie's point, like, if he can help the team, you have to play him. I also, though, Jackie, I agree with you in that sense, but I also look at this kind of like a goalie, like how you look at a goalie. When a goalie's struggling in a series, if you yank him and you put in the backup, some folks see that as like, oh, well, they're pulling the plug on this series. Good luck. I feel similarly in the sense of, like, with Landeskog, if you show that card in game 1 and 2 on the road and the Avs leave Dallas without a single win, I think game 3, him being back in Ball Arena doesn't add the same emotional push, which I know it's the playoffs, it's the Stanley Cup. You shouldn't need more, but you do sometimes. And I think you save that card because you can only pull it once. And so you have to think, when does this card play the best? And I think that the answer to that question, in my opinion, is game 3, because say you steal one in Dallas in games 1 and 2, and then you get to say, well, in game 3, we're also bringing back our captain. I just feel like there's a mental mind game that you can play with your opposition in terms of holding this card. Evan, what are your thoughts? There's been a lot of discussion about the game 1 versus game 3. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I still think game 1. It's again, like, you could talk about the good feeling story, right? But if you're going to help your team win, you're going to help your team win, and that starts right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think that to me, I think, is the right thing to do. If you're the Avalanche, sure, you want the good story, like I said, but if you want to steal one of those games in Dallas, I think you do need to play him, at least if he can play. Of course, we still don't know that, but we're all certain he's probably going to play. Yeah. If for some reason he can't play, then obviously don't put him out there. But,
well, I'm trying to pull it away from the story and put it back into strategy, because I agree with you. Like, if it's just about the story, then he needs to play. But I think strategy wise, in terms of I guess gamesmanship, you have to know when and where to do certain things and think about it and do it the right way. Jackie, where do you stand on game 1 versus game 3?
I mean, I see what you're saying. That I agree. You're going to have that dramatic moment, and you're only going to have it once. Like, even if he plays game 1 or 2, the moment he steps on the ice at Ball Arena, it's going to be huge regardless. True. Strategically, I do see it both ways, because I do also believe if you think he's even a half of Gabe Landeskog, he's going to help you win. So what if you don't win game 1 and 2, and it was like, oh, we just held Landeskog out to have like a momentum push? What if we could have won those games because he would have scored on the power play, et cetera, et cetera. So I think sometimes you kind of outsmart yourself in a way, and you don't want to do that. it's really tough to say because we don't know, is he just going to be back and he's
Right.
good to go? So I think the information, knowing what he can do, how many minutes can he play, did they just expect him to be back and stay? Is
Mhm.
it still something they're very much going to manage? I think those things play into it, because if they pretty much feel like he's just ready to go, then play him. Like,
Yeah.
you're screwing around. You don't need to get cute for cute's sake. But if they still feel like things are limited, maybe he can't play every game, maybe they're concerned about this or that, then do it in the game 3 when you can have that spark. But
Yeah.
don't screw around if you just think he's ready.
That's fair. I think you're right about that. Like, to rebuttal, the flip side of that coin though is, like, if Gabe does play and they lose, and they're like, and then the reaction is, oh well, would there be a difference if they had gone with Kiviranta rather than Landeskog? Or all these conversations, which I know it's not about managing Landeskog's image, but I do think there's a part of that comes into play. But I'm with you guys. Like, if Landeskog is going to win you games and you can go to Denver up 2-0 in the series because Landeskog is in the lineup, that's the obvious choice to make. And I agree with you, Jackie, in terms of, like, don't outthink yourself. Like, at the basis of this game, if you're healthy, you play the next game, period. And so if that's the case, he should be playing. We got Nicholas Bruca back in the house as well. I'm not late for once. What up, fam? What up, dog? Thanks for coming. Sarah Hernandez returning. Keep him in the back pocket, I say. Yeah, there's definitely room for that in the conversation. There are 333 of you watching live right now, so thank you very much for tuning in. If you
Go ahead, sorry,
Jackie.
I was just going to say, then it comes back to, he has skated every day, but he skated on the 5th line.
Yeah. So it's and part of that is still the question of strategy versus truth. Like, are they just holding him back there on the 5th line just to not show their hand? And we'll know for sure when rushes come and when the lineup is announced ahead of game 1. That's kind of why we won't know the answer to this question until literally the game happens, because it's a part of whether or not it's cutesy. It's a part of the strategy, and we all know the Avs are secretive as at baseline, much less with whether or not their captain is going to return in game 1 or game 3.
The funny thing is they're secretive, but they're predictable.
It's true.
So that's the funny thing about the Avs, is, like, they act like it's such cloak and dagger.
Yeah.
But it's like, but we see you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, folks, speaking of seeing you, you can see all of our playoff preview on the website, milehighhockey.com. We have a ton of content already out. We've already previewed every position group. And we've already done a roundtable. We've given you a travel guide to Dallas. It's just been a lot of fun. And of course, we've had Ryan O'Hara at the practices leading up to game 1. Let's talk about our playoff previews a little bit. And let's start with the piece that I wrote, which was about the forward groups. Now, the way these typically work on our website is we talk more about what Dallas is bringing to the table so that we have a clear picture of what we can expect when the game does roll around, game 1, that is on Saturday. I will give you my projected forward group. It's hard to pin this down because rosters got so crazy at the end of the season. The Dallas Stars, much like the Avs, well, more than the Avs, they had nothing to play for with like 7 games left in their season. And you know what? Unfortunately, the update to this, since it's been some time, is that the first line left winger, Mr. Jason Robertson, sustained a knee injury and is pretty unlikely to play in the series. He might even be done for the rest of the season. It remains to be announced and seen. But the rest of the group looks like this. Ropa Hintz, Mikko Rantanen at that top line, center and right wing. I put Mason Marchment on left wing 2, Matt Duchene at center 2, Tyler Seguin at right wing 2, Jamie Bennett left wing 3, Wyatt Johnston at center 2, 3. Geez, I'm having a hard time here. Evgeny Dadonov at right wing 3, Mikael Granlund at left wing 4, Sam Steele at 4C, and Maverick Bourque at 4th line right wing, with Colin Blackwell and Oscar back as the extras. So let's start with that first line, Jackie. One, who's going to go into that Robertson position if, in fact, he is not able to go, as it looks like right now? At the minimum, he won't play in the very first few games. It's feeling like the whole series. How important is it now that Tyler Seguin is back? I know he's a right wing, but at least they have a little bit more depth to call on, yeah?
I feel like I don't have my phone in front of me, so I can't verify. But I did see a tweet about what their lines in practice was. I think Granlund was even on the top line.
Wow.
Um,
Let's see. 3 hours ago, Stars lines at practice, according to Sam Nestler. Granlund at first line left wing. Hence, Dodonov, which I wrote about in the preview, that we might see Dodonov going up in the lineup because he played a lot. He's a 20 goal scorer. Might even be 30.
I think Granlund played well for them, so I don't think it's
scorer.
as crazy as like, oh, they're fourth liners on the top line. I think he's played pretty well for them.
But they did go Marchment, Duchesne, and Sagan on the second line, with Ben Johnston, Rantanen on the third, and Backstill, Bork, and Blackwell making up kind of a conglomerate of the fourth line. So Granlund slotting up there doesn't feel that crazy to me either. I wrote in the preview piece that, like, of the fourth line guys that I had it listed, like, Granlund has the most experience and is likely of the most, someone who can move the needle a little bit. So to see him slot up makes sense to me. Evan, what do you think about the way that Dallas has kept Mikko down on that third line with Jamie Benn and Wyatt Johnston?
Well, I think, we're talking about, people moving up and down the lineup. This just shows how deep Dallas's forward court is. Yeah. That is what I truly think will be the difference in this series, because that's what the Avalanche did when they traded Rantanen, was getting more forward depth. That's what they did when they got Charlie Coyle. That's what they did when they got Brock Nelson. It's so that they can go up against Mikko Rantanen on a third line, Jamie Benn on a third line, whatever that might look like for them, right? Obviously, they have a little bit of help with Robertson being out. He's out week to week at the moment. But, yeah, I'd imagine he's getting very few minutes of playing time in this series unless it goes the distance. And if he gets back in time for it. So, I mean, if Rantanen sticks down on that third line and they figure out a way to make him work, sure, I guess, right? Whatever it is. I think it's kind of been shown that Rantanen is not the same player that he is without McKinnon. And likewise, and likewise, Natchez has been better with McKinnon than he was in Carolina on his own. So I'm not saying that Rantanen's a bad player. I'm just saying it's a step down from where he was.
I would agree with you early. I would agree with you early on, but I think if you take a look lately at some of the work he's done with the Dallas Stars, I think, unfortunately, as I previewed when he first landed in Dallas is going to know how to use him. Like, because they've played against him and seen what he does well for the Avalanche. He has 18 points in 20 games with Dallas. So that's not exactly a slouch. You know what I mean? That's damn near a point per game. Obviously, he was over a point per game player, to your point, Evan, when he was in Colorado. But let's wait for the body of work. I bet you when that amount of games gets above 80, he'll be back to being an above point per game player. I wouldn't be surprised if he's above a point per game player in the playoffs, as we know very well that Mikko absolutely lights it up in the playoffs. I think he has like 120 points in 80 appearances, I believe I wrote in the preview, which is that's quite a figure if you ask me. So Ezra, I almost called you Ezra, Brennan. Wrong person. But Brennan, we talked a lot about Gabe Landeskog's return to the lineup. What about Tyler Seguin returning to Dallas's group?
Well, I don't have a beard, so
yeah, true.
And second of all, Evan, shade.
Yeah. It was 101 points.
I'm just saying my thoughts, man.
I know. We all have our opinions.
Sorry, it was 101
yours
points
happens to be wrong.
Games. Yeah. Be nice to my friend Evan. Just because you got to episode 100, Brandon, doesn't mean you can be mean to Evan. Okay.
I know. I'm just giving him. Crud. But anyways, it to me it just shows how deep the lineup is. But now when it comes to Landeskog, he'll be on line 3 once he does enter the lineup. I think it's hard to say who he's going to replace, but in my opinion, it's going to probably be Kiviranta.
Yeah.
We're going to have to see how quickly he can keep, how fast he can skate first off, but take out Kiviranta and add the weight of Landeskog, and Yeah, that's a heavy third line with Coyle and Colton and Landeskog on there.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think they like Kiviranta better than Kelly, but obviously we'll see.
I think so too. I think, well, guys, I had such a fun week this week in terms of playing video games. That's such a nerdy thing to say on a podcast, but I went ahead and I like built the playoff bracket on NHL 25, and I successfully predicted all the matchups a week ahead of time, which was always nice. And one of the things that stuck out to me was like you had to manually put Landeskog back in the lineup. So it put me in the mind space of exactly this decision. Who am I replacing? And it was, in fact, a lot of the times I slotted Kiviranta down to the fourth line and pulled Kelly altogether and scratched Kelly. And then I even at some points, instead of Kiviranta, swapped in Miles Wood and Jimmy Vesey in that third left wing. So it was a fun game to play, and it continues to be fun because it correctly predicted the bracket, including like home and aways in terms of the series. So it's like it's an exact depiction of how the playoffs are. It's going to be so fun for me. But I asked you guys. Go ahead, Jackie.
I was going to say we also have a simulation
Yes.
that Ryan did, and I won't tell you the exact outcome. But I'll say you probably want to check it out.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
he did a simulation of game one, so
Yeah,
that'll
well,
be up on the website shortly.
So
hint,
I'm
it
of
follows
the opinion.
Ezra's
I stick
prediction.
with.
Sorry, go ahead, Brent.
I'm with the opinion of Jackie. I stay with Kelly because if you watch the rewatch the Anaheim game,
Mhm.
who's the player that stuck out the most
Sure.
early in the game? It was
Sure.
Parker Kelly.
I mean, I don't like either of them, but I'm just
well,
saying. I think Bednar.
I'm just
favors Kiviranta.
he doesn't score much. It's
Or
his
at all.
grit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the question at hand was, and I get it, we got to talk about Landeskog, but Tyler Seguin. The Dallas Stars are getting back a veteran of their own, and he was one that was absolutely lighting it up to start the regular season, and
He's
then
an
he got
abs killer.
injured. Yeah, and he's an absolute abs killer. Seguin and Ben are kind of the scourge of former Avs losses to Dallas in the playoffs. So it's like my whole thing is a lot of people have pointed it out this way. Like Dallas is doing a good job of making us believe that we have a chance. I think the Avalanche are a really good team. But I do think that Dallas is deeper than they're getting credit for, and that the Robertson injury is getting a lot more credit in terms of swaying the outcome than it should. Obviously, Jason Robertson is a great player. He was among the leading scorers against Colorado last year, just shy of Miro Heiskanen, who is also out of the lineup. I think that is way, way more of an important thing than Jason Robertson, just based on a numbers thing and how Heiskanen contributes to Dallas. But let's go there now then, Jackie. Let's talk about the defending group. Let's preview the Dallas Stars defensive core. Evan, you did a nice little write-up on Hockey Mountain High about the different positions and the different previews. What did you see from the defensive group of the Dallas Stars?
Yeah, Heiskanen being gone is a big blow to them. I think, but even with him, like I would still give the edge to the Avs, at least in that department, because nothing goes up against Cale Makar and Devon Toews. Like when you have those two, they can win you games alone, right? You obviously have Thomas Harley with Dallas, who's been good. He's been pretty good this year. Kind of made himself known, I feel like, to everybody outside of Dallas and the Central Division. The Four Nations face-off this year when he was kicking it there. But I mean, beyond those two, I mean, you have Cody Ceci, former Oiler defender. I mean, we all know the story when it comes to Oilers defenders.
They had a lot to say in Edmonton about Cody Ceci.
You have Matt Dumba, like Brendan Smith,
I don't like
Essa Lindell. Like, there's just they don't have a lot of very good options on the blue line. So that's why I give the edge to Colorado. But I will say, if Heiskanen is able to come back sooner rather than later, that will help them. But then furthermore, at least on the Avalanche blue line, I'm concerned about their depth, because obviously it sounds like Manson and Lindgren will be back and ready to go for game one on Saturday. But I mean, if any defender goes down, then you're talking about Eric Johnson coming in, which then you're talking about Keaton Middleton coming in also. Like, it's not great
Watch your mouth
options
on
to
Middleton.
have. It's I'm just saying it's not great options to have when you have like Jack Johnson was when they went on and won the cup was their 7th defender.
Yeah.
Obviously, we respect the GOAT Jack Johnson when it comes to being a Stanley Cup champion now. But I also wouldn't love to have one of Eric Johnson or Middleton coming in. I'd like to just keep the same 6 defenders that I'm assuming would be in, which would be Makar, Taves, Manson, Lindgren, Malinsky, and Gerard.
Yeah, well, I mean, sorry, brother, but you ain't got a choice. Eric Johnson is your 7th defender, probably. And Sam Malinsky, I think, will play more than people anticipate. I just think that he'll rise to the occasion. I'm with you, though. Like, I said the same thing about the forward group. The forward group, I even though it felt like a pretty tight comparison between the Avs and Dallas, I gave it to the Avalanche because of Nathan MacKinnon. And I think I don't need to explain why to Avalanche fans why I think Nathan MacKinnon moves the needle. But Brennan, what did you see from the defensive group? Are you concerned at all about the depth like Evan points to? You mentioned don't besmirch my man Keaton Potatoes like that. Where you at?
Well, I've watched Keaton Middleton in the playoffs for the last 2 years. So, but that's of course the AHL. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit different game, obviously. But the only thing that concerns me is Gerard and making it through, because he didn't make it through the last playoffs either, right?
I think he made it through last year, but he didn't make it through obviously 2022.
Yeah, he got knocked out with a broken sternum
Correct.
on the no call against St. Louis.
Mhm.
I'm not going to have my comments on that because
Landy
I mean,
said
yeah,
enough.
that was a dirty hit. Like,
you said it, Jackie, for me. And
I still have the Getty image showing that it's a dirty hit save. So if anybody has any questions about it, I'm ready for that one.
Jackie has receipts and she's ready
Yes.
to go with that. Well, Jackie, it's a good point to bring up Sam Girard because he kind of had his moment on the way out of the season, regular season that is, in terms of injuries. What is your level of concern with that? And if in fact it has to be Eric Johnson or Keaton Middleton, who's your choice?
I would go with EJ because of the experience.
Okay, Jackie, what about you?
Oh no, you
Sorry.
can finish. I've got a few points. You can just come
Okay.
back to me and I'll
Okay,
I'll
go
get
ahead,
to it.
EJ's got he's a smarter hockey player. We all know that. I
Veteran.
think there's more trust in EJ's play when it comes to compared to Mitzi, but the thing that Mitzi would bring, other than out of position play, is grit. So if you have someone like Jamie Benn who's going to step up and be a jerk, Mitzi can throw it down just like Manson can. Whether he's going to win that fight is a different story, but he's going to intimidate when you have a 6'7" guy with this nasty ginger beard looking at you with these big ears. But I love my Mitzi. He's just he's a nice guy. So
well, I mean, if we're going for grit per 60 at that 6D spot, then I think you're right. But Jackie, you said you had a couple of points about this defensive group. Let's hear it.
Well, I wanted to go back to the forwards real quick because I didn't get to finish that. I do think with their lines and really with the Avs lines, what you see on paper isn't reality. Like, people get caught up in this person's on the third line or whatever it is. Like, you have to look on time on ice. That's where the truth is. So I feel like Mikko's been with, I think, Wyatt Johnson a lot. And that is a guy that gets no credit. He's 21 years old, or he was when the season started. He scored 30 goals, and nobody ever talks about him like he's a factor. And I wanted to explain why I think Mikko is not just a beneficiary from MacKinnon.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you pointed out, nearly point per game with Dallas. So, clearly got more comfortable there. But at 5-on-5, he was still shooting 3.5%. And Mikko's like a 16-17% career shooter. So there's some regression going to happen there.
Mm-hmm.
And then also on the other side of the coin, Netchess scored 5 points at 5-on-5 after the Four Nations break. 4 points at 5-on-5 after the Four Nations break. So if it's like, oh, well, we don't need Mikko anymore, we have Netchess, there's a concern there. But anyway, back to the defense. I think as a whole, Dallas's defense gets underrated because Heiskanen's been missing a long time. They won a lot of games, and people will say, well, their analytics are trash.
Right.
And it doesn't count. Well, a lot of the times if you're winning, your analytics are bad. But if we're going to talk about the Avs D-core as having this great depth, the second pair for years on the Avs has been trash analytically.
Yeah.
Is that a Josh Manson thing? Is that the way that
availability thing?
Makar and Tays get all the favorable matchups, where they're going to score and where they're getting all these great expected goals. And then the second pair is just left with the scraps and left to kind of clean up the mess. And so that's where I land on the analytic debate there. I think Dallas has held the fort down without Heiskanen for a long time. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a Robertson thing where like he's just out. What are they going to do about it? They've kind of worked their way around it. I think Harley's played well. I think Lindell doesn't get enough credit. But true, they don't have a Cale Makar. They don't have Superstar. There's a difference right there. As far as what the Avs should do with their depth, I wouldn't be surprised if they play Erik Johnson instead of Malinsky, because that's what Bednar does.
I wouldn't be surprised either, but I wouldn't be surprised if that bites him in the butt and quickly changes.
And as far as the injuries, I think it's clear that Gerard's been dealing with something because he was out twice for a little bit, came back, but I think he can work through it. I'm a little bit more concerned with Manson and Lindgren because they're known injury risk players that have missed a lot of time in their career. It's clear that Lindgren's just gutting something out because he couldn't finish practice the other day, but he practiced today. We don't know how long that's going to hold out. Manson, he's finally healthy again for like the 5th time, but how long is that going to hold out? And then with the Erik Johnson thing, it's so hard to know what he's going to be able to provide consistently over a long period of time because he basically was a non-player in Philly. He played 8 games in 4 months. Clearly he's refreshed, he's rejuvenated. He doesn't look like a scratch player here, but is that going to hold up? So I think the Avs are counting on 4 middle to bottom pair guys that might vanish at any time.
Fair. Well, Ezra, you're here just in time. Folks, we are joined by Ezra the Partier, and we are gonna ask you did the defensive preview for us on milehighhockey.com, and so that's why I say your perfect timing is perfect. What is it that gives you an advantage to either side of this? We've talked a lot about 7 and 6D for the Avalanche. Where do you land in terms of that? And what do you think about this from Chris Meany? The Dallas Stars have allowed the most shots and have the highest expected goals against rate at 5-5 per 60 since the Four Nations face-off. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that stat really speaks to what I wrote about in the write-up I did for the defense comparison, because the simple truth of the Dallas defense is Thomas Harley is great, Miro Heiskanen is great, Asa Lindell is excellent, and everyone else is trash. So they're so, like, Ilya Lyubushkin on a top pair is comical. He's a good third pair defenseman, and if he was on that third pair, I would feel a little bit confident about it. But he's not. It's Matt Dumba and either Brennan Smith or a young guy, Liam Bichsel, and Matt Dumba's done, you guys. Matt Dumba is absolutely done. Last year, everybody thought Matt Dumba was done, and then he got a big deal from Dallas, and we're like, what? How did this happen? And it has not gone well. Yeah. The Dallas defense is bad. It just is. Without Heiskanen, it's in a rough spot. With him, things even out a lot better. You see Lyubushkin bump down from the top pair to play with Lindell, and that's a solid defensive shutdown unit. Lindell's very, very, very good. Jackie's absolutely right that he's underrated. He's probably the best number 3 defenseman of the Western Conference powers. Gerard's we love Gerard, but he has his limitations. Lindell His only limitation is he doesn't score, but that's fine. That's not his job. He's an amazing defender. But right now he's playing with Cody Ceci. And again, it's comical. Like Cody Ceci on a playoff team again is ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense that they traded for him. It hasn't gone well. And they have a terrible right side of the defense. Colorado's biggest advantage might be the third pair, even if it's Keaton Middleton and Sam Malinsky, which I think it would be hard to believe going into this year that anyone could say that. But the way Middleton has played, I think, has shown that he can get through a game without making a critical error. And the way Malinsky's played, same. He's actually been really good with Ryan Lindgren. I've really liked that pair. So if Lindgren and Manson are healthy, that means that there's some combination of Lindgren and Malinsky and Johnson on the third pair, and that's solid. It's much better than Dumba and Smith or Bixel. Bischel. I don't know how to say it. I couldn't decide.
Good on you with all these names though, like Labushkin. Like, come on, let's go,
Labushkin's you try to spell that, it's wild. But I like Ilya Labushkin, frankly. Like as a third pairing defenseman, I like him. But as a first pairing defenseman, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Dallas is in trouble.
I would tend to agree with that. Okay, so I'll say this: we'll make the forward group 50-50. We'll call it a wash. We'll make the defensive group. We'll give the honors to the Avalanche, who probably have the Norris winner, and the Dallas Stars have a pretty battered blue line. Jackie K, that just leaves us with the netminders. I don't want to get right to the meat and potatoes in terms of who you think has the advantage, but when you look at the Dallas Stars goalie room, what do you see? And if you want to give a quick reaction to what Ezra said there, by all means.
About the defense, I think the Avs blue line's pretty battered.
Well,
like I said, I mean, yeah, we like these guys. But like I said, if you're going to use analytics as a reason, then beyond Makar and Taves, the Avs blue line analytics are not good.
Right.
So I think it's a lot. I think with Kale, the Avs win the blue line for sure. I agree with that. Beyond that, I think it's definitely up in the air.
Okay. Well, let's still pretend that what I said is the truth, and that we give the Avs the slight edge defensively.
Sure, that's fine. They still have Kale Makar, so
yeah, exactly. So let's not give him that with Nathan MacKinnon in the forward group, but definitely give it to him with the defensive group and Kale Makar. Where do you see the goalie situation? Who is this? An opportunity for the Avs? We'll put it this way: opportunity for the Avs or a risk for the Avs?
There's some interesting thoughts there with the goaltending. I know the whole we have Blackwood now, like the Avs fixed all their problems, yay us. There's a little bit more to unpack there, because on the one hand, if you look at just the raw stats of Blackwood and Wedgwood, because I think Wedgwood factors in here, they've had good stats with the Avs. They've been very good since they arrived. But if you look at Blackwood's performance, I don't remember the exact number I had. I think it was 9 times out of the last 16 of his starts, Blackwood has given up 3 or more goals. And I think we've kind of felt that he's been a little up and down, but then people will look and say, oh, look, he has like a 2.13 goals against average. He's fantastic. But I think you have to look at the trend here. So is it just because the Avs have been a bit up and down because they really have a lot to play for, and their last really good game was that Kings shutout, which he was a net for? But how much was it him? How much was it just a veteran team that just didn't really care down the stretch? It's tough to say. The other thing is he has 0 playoff experience. Wedgwood doesn't really have much either. He was a backup for Dallas, just got in a couple games. The other thing I found interesting is Blackwood has never beat the Dallas Stars in his career.
That's interesting.
He hasn't played them as a member of the Avs. The guy that was in net when they played Dallas was Wedgwood. So, that's just kind of another, if the Avs are going to win this series, that's another slaying of the dragon sort of moment here.
Yeah.
Obviously Dallas has more stability in net. They have Ottinger. He has good number of playoff experience with them. His career against the Avs hasn't been that great. It's been pretty mediocre, but he was good in the series last year.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of 50-50 there. It's tough to say. I know in my article I gave the edge to the Avs because I think if the team in front of them does what they need to do, I think the Avs goalies can hold the fort down and win.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to steal a series.
Right.
And I think moving ahead, that should cut. It depends what you think. Are they going to be Georgiev? You know, they'll be better than that. Then again, he had a good series
Please God.
against Winnipeg, you know? So
Yeah.
goalies are goalies. They can
Well,
have hot streaks and cold
Hellebuck
streaks.
had a bad series. I don't know if Georgiev had a good series, but
well,
I hear
good
you.
enough. Good
Yeah.
enough to win.
Yeah.
So I think that's what these goalies can do. Good enough to win. But
Yeah.
there's also another thing. Could Wedgwood be given the start? Because he was given some of the practice starts that you all noticed
Mm-hmm.
that were at practice. Is that a curveball the Avs are going to throw?
Interesting.
And then you have to consider. I still would be surprised to they doing that right away. I could see them do it when they're losing and they need, like you said earlier, that sort of the card to play. You can only play it once or twice.
Once in a series, but maybe
Yeah.
twice in a run. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So are they going to do that game one? I'd still be surprised. But
Yeah.
so I guess all in all, like I said, I'm going to give the edge to the Avs because in total, their goalies have played well since they've arrived.
Yeah. I'd agree.
But
Well,
I think it's too easy to say like, oh, McFarland fixed the problem. Yay, us. I think there's some things to be a little concerned about.
Yeah, I like your thought process in terms of looking at the groups as a whole. And like, you're right. It only can work once unless it works that one time. And then you can do it again to bring Blackwood back in once Wedgwood starts to skid. And that's usually the way only way it works more than once in a playoff run. But Evan, back to you here with the goaltenders. Jackie has the slight edge to the Avalanche based on a kind of conglomerate. Ottinger was pretty much like the best, or at least hottest, most talked about goalie in the league a few playoffs ago. And that's kind of what solidified his role in Dallas. Are you worried about that coming back to the surface against Colorado, or do you see it kind of the way Jackie does, where he's had some struggles against the Avalanche and that might be apparent?
I actually give the edge to Dallas in this department in goaltending, because Jake Ottinger is very good, right? Yeah. I think even though like you said, he's had his struggles against the Avalanche, he's still Jake Ottinger.
Yeah.
If Connor Hellebuck wasn't in this division, he's probably the best one in the division. And I also give them the edge just because of what has happened in the last 5 games for Blackwood and Wedgwood. Thank you, Brennan, for giving me this stat. But Blackwood's 1-4 in his last 5 games, 8.79 save percentage, 3.5 goals against average. Yeah. Meanwhile, Wedgwood is 4-0-1 in his last 5 games, save percentage of 9.17, and 1.72 goals against average.
I never stop working, guys.
So, like, very, very contrasting things there, right? Obviously, Wedgwood has gotten the lower tier teams out of those in those 5 games, maybe compared to Blackwood, but I mean that's still something to consider, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. And he beat the Stars, like you said. I'm actually surprised that Blackwood has never beaten the Stars. That makes me a little more nervous about that, and makes me even lean more into the fact that I think that Dallas has the advantage here. I definitely could see Wedgwood at least getting an opportunity to play in this series. Bednar, I think, stated that he is going to give Blackwood like he's the guy, at least to start. But I mean, if he pulls a Georgiev, knock on wood that doesn't happen. But if he pulls a Georgiev, then there's definitely some things to think about. But I will say, and I said it when some of the folks at the Dallas Stars defending Big D site reached out to me to do their podcast. I told them it kind of feels similar to 2022, where you have Darcy Kemper at the time. We're like, okay, like that's fine. Like I could live with that. But then you also have Pavel Francouz at that time, and he stepped up huge in that time. Like if Blackwood were to go down, I would at least feel comfortable with Wedgwood at least giving you an opportunity. So it feels very similar to that, which I like. But again, I still give the edge to Dallas in this situation simply because of Ottinger.
Well, we are crushing the stat game on this episode because that's a great stat with the Blackwood never beating the Dallas Stars. And you know what? If we're going to be 100% honest about like who's struggled more among the groups, when we look at Ottinger, he's 5-3-2 against the Avs. So that's 50. He's got a 500 record against the Avs. Goals against average of 3.14 leaves something to be admired. But a save percentage of 911 really isn't that bad. Conversely, Scott Wedgwood and Mackenzie Blackwood combined have only won 3 games and have lost 9. So, and Wedgwood has posted a 3.03 save percentage with a 0.886 against the Stars in his career. And Mackenzie Blackwood, of course, has a 3.6 goals against average and a 9.02 save percentage against the Stars in his career. So if you really take a detailed look at that conversation, it doesn't look good for the Avalanche. So both teams are kind of hoping that those career numbers are not definitive and not depictive of how the playoffs come along. Ezra, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we have to remember that Mackenzie Blackwood put up those numbers behind either a bad New Jersey Devils team or a bad San Jose Sharks team. And I think the team is so different. Colorado's team defense has been so good. Obviously the last few games excluded, but in general with this lineup that it does feel exactly like Kemper to me, where like all he has to do is not make a critical error. And so far he hasn't been great, but he hasn't made a critical error. He's let in some goals where you're like, oh, I wish he would have had one, let that one, but none of the Georgievs where you're like, are you kidding me? And I think as long as that stays true, it's pretty equivalent to Ottinger, who, yes, a while back, everybody was saying Ottinger's the truth, but he hasn't really been.
Yeah.
He's been good. He's been above average. He's been a high-quality starter, but so is Blackwood.
Yeah, I'd say that Columbus game, there were some Georgiev moments.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. There's been a few, but for the most part.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well, Brennan, we've talked a lot about this goalie room, and we've not heard from you just yet in this goalie matchup. How do you see it just right off the rip? Avs or Stars with the advantage?
Well, the stats prove that we should probably start Wedgwood, but it's the confidence factor.
Yeah.
Do you really want to nail Blackwood's confidence first game of the playoffs, and then he's also got this huge contract that he has that he has continuing after this? It's the whole Kemper Francouz thing,
Well,
it's like,
let me ask you this: who's the better goalie, Mackenzie Blackwood or Scott Wedgwood?
Depends on who you're playing.
No, just no. Depends. Who's the better goalie? Who's the better goalie?
Don't laugh at me, Ezra.
Who's better between the pipes, no matter who the opposition is?
I was going to say lately it's been Wedgwood, but
the answer is Mackenzie Blackwood. So, and I think you go with that guy if you're playing in a playoff game, right? I mean, I'm here for the Scott Wedgwood serves as a very, very good option in the event that things don't work out for Mackenzie Blackwood. But conversely, to your point about shooting his confidence, you get Mackenzie Blackwood out there on the road in game 1, and he holds the Dallas Stars under 2 goals or less, and the Avalanche win 4-2. That's an immediate shot in the arm in terms of his confidence. He just slayed the Dragon in game 1. And if you lose game 1, it's like, it's game 1. You're on the road. It was going to be tough. We knew it was. And I'm with Jackie, and I'm with all of you, really. As long as he limits those glaring, like, you just can't let that one in goals, then the Avalanche should be just fine. What is your reaction to that, B?
Well, the guy's already missing enough teeth. You can't punch him in the teeth anymore.
Yeah.
So, go with the hot hand, in my opinion.
There is credence to that argument because we've seen it be done and work before, especially in the playoffs. That's what created Jordan Binnington. But I know, right? Ouch. Didn't think we were going to talk about that. Oh, but hey, that guy's in the playoffs. So I hope you guys are ready for that potential matchup in the future if the Avs take care of business. And St. Louis remains one of the hottest teams in the league. You want to talk about recency bias? That's something we might be concerned about. But that's all of our position previews. I don't want us to push this show way beyond what I wanted you guys to be here for. So let's move on really quickly and make quick determinations and arguments in terms of our wild card players in this series. Jackie, I'll start with you. Who's your wild card player in this Avs versus Dallas round one?
I kind of had two, and the funny thing is that what I wrote in our round table, Wedgwood was one of them because I just feel like he's going to factor in somehow. If they go on a long run, I don't see how there's any way that he doesn't see action for whatever reason. And we just explained exactly why. So we might not see him early. We might not see him in the series, but if the Avs are going to win the cup, I think he's going to be a part of it. Also, I'd say Nichushkin. For obvious reasons, we didn't see complete playoffs from him. So things are going well, knock on wood. And just the reason is the record with him in the lineup. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think he does so many things that the Avs need, and he does them so well. The forechecking, that he's been able to grow his game to be a reliable scoring threat. What he does on the power play, just all these things. We know he's a good player, so in a way it's kind of silly to pick him as an X factor, but I just think he elevates their game so much and they need him so much that he is going to be a big X factor for them.
So he's your one of your wild cards and your X factor. I like that. Let's actually do that. Let's give both, and
I guess
if they're the same.
I guess what's the how would you define wild card?
Wild card
you don't know
is,
what you're going to get from someone.
Yeah, and
I'd say Wedgwood's more the wild card just because we don't know how much he's going to play at all, if at all.
Right.
But if he does, it might be very important. So he's probably good for a wild card, and then I'd say Nichushkin's their X factor.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you guys mine real quick just to give you some more ideas because I think the Nichushkin as the X factor is going to be common. My X factor is Charlie Coyle. I think that this series, like a lot of series that are close in the past, will be decided in the bottom six. And I think Charlie Coyle is a really good 3C. And I think he embodies all of the characteristics that typically find success in this playoff series. And then, of course, I will give you my my wild card has to be Landeskog, right? Because we just don't know how good he can be and how effective he will be. Evan, what do you got in terms of a wild card and an X factor?
You stole my two right out of my hands as I was ready to talk about Charlie Coyle because no one's talked about him.
I did in our roundtable, so I don't know if I stole it. So he's just saying.
He's here. I have some stats to back us both up here because Charlie Coyle has played in the playoffs every single year of his career. I think it's 13 years now. He has not missed the playoffs. So he's very familiar with this atmosphere. He's very familiar with what's going on. He hasn't done it in Colorado. We'll give him that. But that's someone you want in your corner who has that playoff experience. Furthermore, he's on a 6-game point streak right now. He was a catalyst in that Ducks game, the last game of the season, to help come back win. Granted, it didn't really mean much in the end, but that's something you'd like to see going into the playoffs. So I'm excited to see what Charlie Coyle can do because arguably, especially if Brock Nelson isn't doing good, he could jump up into that second line. He could. I wouldn't love it, but he could. And then the Landy thing. I mean, I think we're beating the dead horse with that. Like we just don't know. We just don't know what he's going to do, if he's going to play all the games. We simply just don't know. And I mean, if you want to talk about a true wild card, that is it right there. Is Landeskog.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I saw you guys smiling at each other when I said Charlie Coyle. Are you guys trying to imply that I ripped that off you? Because
no. Brennan mouthed a certain player's name that I think you can guess.
Brad Marchand.
Oh,
I saw it and I was laughing at it.
Oh, okay. I was like,
well, good for you. The Florida schedule's out.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
It starts
get
at
it in.
8:30 Eastern on Tuesday, which is ridiculous.
I
but
was like,
carry on.
I thought you guys were like tongue in cheeking me over here on live on the broadcast. No, but Brennan, what do you got for me? Your X Factor and your wild card. Evan, great. Thank you for supporting my X Factor and Charlie Coyle. Salute.
Ross Colton.
Roscoe for maybe
Yes.
some similar reasons, right? As Charlie Coyle.
Well, we all saw it in the Avalanche Lightning series. He's been to a couple Stanley Cup finals. He knows what it takes. He's won a Stanley Cup final with a game-winning goal. He can be gritty. He can be aggressive. And those are essentially the same thing, but he knows how to play in the corners. And then, move him to center if you need to, and he can score. We've seen it before earlier in the year before his foot got hurt. So I don't know why they're not playing him at freaking center, but that's just me. So Ross Colton.
I like it. Is he also your wild card?
Yes.
Okay, we got a double whammy, wild card and an X Factor, which that sort of combination is dangerous in both ways. He could go really well, could go not so well at all. But I tell you what, by default, I do think the answer is Val Nichushkin. I found Charlie Coyle because of the dynamic, like I said, with close playoff series and how the bottom six can usually dictate. I mean, the year that the Avalanche lost to the Vegas Golden Knights, that third line, we just could not stop. And so I think that hoping that we'll see shades of that with Colorado against Dallas, as they should draw some of that, 3 through 6D group than the top group does. I know Lyubushkin's on the top group anyway, so it might not be a problem for the first two lines either. But I'm just saying, having Charlie Coyle as your 3C, to me, that depth up the middle is really where the Avs resemble what they had in 2022. And ironically, to Evan's point earlier, that goalie room, having a decent enough, so to speak, goalie that could be good and great in moments, and then one behind him that's just fine. I think that those characteristics being embodied by this version of the Colorado Avalanche is a positive thing. So that just leaves me with the thing that everyone is waiting for, which is our predictions as a whole for this playoff series.
I don't think we got Ezra's.
Oh, Ezra's frowning at me because I'm a butthole.
It's like you're just gonna skip the guy in the middle. Come on,
Ezra, what's your X Factor and your wild card? Let's just Mandela effect and pretend that never happened. Ezra, what's your X Factor and wild card today?
Well, I love what everybody's saying about depth scoring, because that is really, I think that is going to be the key. We know what to expect from McKinnon and Makar, but we don't know what to expect from the middle. And we kind of know what to expect from the bottom of the roster, playing good defense, but we don't know what to expect from the middle of the roster. Yeah. So for me, it's Brock Nelson is the X factor. Because if he can contribute, if he can make a second line a serious play driver, then I think that the Avs tilt the balance of the forward conversation from 50-50 to a little bit more in their favor. That's what Dallas is so good at, is having scoring throughout the lineup. That's what makes them so dangerous. So if Colorado can replicate that, that would be amazing. And I really think it does come down to Brock Nelson on that second line.
Nice.
As far as wild cards go, I mean, it's Jason Robertson's knee. Nothing else matters quite as much as that, I don't think. Heiskanen's going to come back at some point. We already know that. But is Robertson going to miss the whole series? That's a wild card.
Yeah, that is a wild card. And to your point, it's kind of plays on the same one as the Landeskog wild card, which is you're not sure. There's a lot of just like it's not completely clear as to how things will go in the next couple of days and weeks. So that's a great one. Because I was so rude and skipped you, we'll start with you for the series prediction. You kind of gave it last week, but has anything changed, or where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, so last week I said I think Dallas kind of blows out Colorado in game 1 because Colorado's too rested, and then Colorado wins in 6. But now that Dallas is short Robertson, that does change things for me. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get too wild here, but I think if Colorado can win both games in Dallas, it's going to be really hard for Dallas to come back from that. I'm going to switch it up and say Avs in 5.
Whoo, baby. That needle is moving. I don't think it's irresponsible for you to do that, honestly, based on your last point there with Robertson.
It's a big loss. He's a huge loss. It sounds like you already covered it when I was being late, but man, it's a huge loss.
Not knowing how to tell time.
Yeah, true.
You know, to be fair, like I do this all the time with scheduled television. That's why streaming has been like the greatest gift to me ever. Because half the time I get on the platform and I'm like, oh, this came out 2 hours ago. I thought it was not going to come out until midnight. I've been sitting here, trying to keep myself awake, and it's been available this whole time. So don't beat yourself up too much, Ezra. Don't beat yourself up too much, Jackie. Ezra has moved and leaned a little bit more towards the Avs taking care of business earlier on. Are you feeling that as well, or are you still seeing a tight 6 or 7 gamer?
No, I don't think one player really makes that much difference. I mean, it is a loss for sure, and we'll see, because everybody lies. Like, we've seen guys with torn ACLs play in the playoffs, so
yeah,
I think they just ruled him out for game 1.
He didn't practice today, yeah.
Well, DeBoer said he's week to week.
But then I think they only said he's not going to play game 1. So, where the truth falls in that,
we shall see. Yeah.
But either way, losing one player, I don't think moves the needle that much.
Okay.
Like, as good as he is, there's so much other parts of a team. Like, if the Avs lost McKinnon, knock on wood, not that I want this to happen, you wouldn't all say, oh, Dallas at 5 or Dallas at 4.
I might.
Don't you even put those words into your mouth.
I might, Jackie.
I'm just saying, really, one player. No, I knocked on wood. Trust me, if you can hear it or not. I'm not saying, not putting that in the universe, knocking on wood here.
I think maybe a better comparable would be like Natchez. Because I'm sorry, Robertson and McKinnon is up here compared.
Okay, yes, McKinnon's a better player, but as far as the team, they don't have a superstar. So
yeah,
I do think a loss. Like, I think he was second on their team in scoring. The funny thing is, can you believe Matt Duchene was a point per game?
That's why I called him the ageless wonder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyway,
but Robertson's like a 1.5 per game since the Four Nations, so he's been
he's a good player. Like, I fully recognize that, but sometimes when there's adversity like that, a team can kind of come together and
rally around it.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you a little bit of a boost, and we've seen that happen with the Avs countless times. They're down a couple of their really good players. You think this is terrible, but sometimes it comes together. So that's why I think losing one player, no, that doesn't change my series prediction.
Which is?
I'm still going to say Avs in 6. I just think it sets up too many storylines. Everyone's slaying their personal dragons. I think the Avs are going to need to be very healthy.
Yeah.
I think when they start, as much as they added all these pieces, the depth is great, it does fall off a cliff. Like, if they're even down 2 good forwards, I think they're in big trouble. So they're going to start this playoffs basically healthy. We'll see how true that is.
Yeah.
But do I expect pretty much everyone to dress at the beginning? Yes. So that's why I think they can get through this round. I'm still not picking them to go super deep, but I think they can get through this series. I think they can rewrite all these new histories that they need to rewrite. And I think they'll do it in 6. We know game 7 is a bit iffy here. That could be another dragon they slay, but I'll pick them to do it in 6.
Awesome. Well, I hope they slay that dragon in the Stanley Cup final. And that way I can be less stressed out in terms of the game 7 dragon. But I like your angle with there's a lot to prove in terms of the phrase slaying a dragon for this Avalanche team, starting at the top all the way to the bottom. I think there's plenty of meat left on the bone for a guy like Nathan McKinnon when you talk about never winning a game 7. But I like Avs. So far we got Ezra with Avs in 5. We got Jackie with Avs in 6. Evan, where do you sit?
Oh man, it's just such a close close series. I'm gonna say this: McKinnon and McCarr live. Landeskog might be back in on 5. Avalanche in 5.
Hey, baby, I love it.
The Lakers meme. I tried it.
Yes.
I tried to make one. It kind of worked. It kind of didn't, but I went for it. Let me actually give you some reasoning and not like Gen Z meme culture that I'm doing here.
No, some of them might be watching. We have like 1,400.
You can't think it's a close series and then pick them in 5.
So, Avalanche in 5. Avalanche in
Okay.
5. But here's my reasoning. Okay, here's my reasoning. It's because of Landeskog maybe coming back, right? That will benefit the Avalanche no matter what, right?
Yeah.
The Stars lost 7 straight coming into the playoffs. They have not been very good in April. I think they've lost 7 straight game 1s too. So I mean, the Avalanche can make it 8. Why not? That will help, right?
Big.
Take one in Dallas. That would be very, very nice. But not only that, I said this too when I talked to the folks at Defending Big D. The Avalanche don't like clinching at home, and I don't want to play in a Game 7 just because of the record. So that's why I think they're going to want to try to close this out early, and I can see that happening, taking on what I would say is a more depleted Stars side, which could benefit them absolutely. So yes, well, Jackie, while I say it's close, I still think that the Avalanche can take care of business here pretty handily. All
right, fair. Brennan, where are you sitting here?
Avs in 5, because like Evan was saying, he essentially took everything out of my mouth. They don't like winning at home, Landy. And then as long as they don't get to 7, DeBoer has a great record in game 7s. So and we all know that. So from experience with Sharks and Dallas. So
Landeskog was on sides.
Yes, he was.
Hey, that should be a chant in the stadium. That was good. Landeskog was onside. Yes, he was. That's a great one. I dig it. That's
yeah, but I don't think he wants to live that one up anymore. It's like, yeah, he comes back after a 3-year hiatus essentially, and it's like, oh, you were on sides. No, I don't think he wants to live that one up.
So, Landy, when your first game back, what do you think about being on side earlier in your career? Yeah, I don't think that
what, like 5 years ago?
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Again, it Avs in 7.
I dig it. Well, I do want to touch on our roundtable real quick because I believe, Jackie, we had people make their predictions in the roundtable, right? Or am I tripping?
I don't think we people like picked it as a number
specifically.
Like
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do want to touch on Jess KS as he's listed on our page. He had some great things to say, so folks, head on over to our roundtable there. But I just wanted to be sure no one there gave a prediction, and doesn't look like we did. But there's almost 1,500 of you live right now. Thank you for tuning in. Right now we have Ezra said Avs in 5, Jackie says Avs in 6, Evan says Avs in 5, and Brandon says Avs in 5. Well, that just leaves me to maybe I'm the realist today, Jackie. I don't know. I just think it's playoffs. I think it's division rivalry. I don't think, like you mentioned, Jackie, it comes down to 1 or 2 players the way it should sometimes in the regular season. And I say Avs in 7. I do think that they slay the Dragon. I do think they go to Dallas and win in Dallas in Game 7, and Landeskog is a big part of why. There you go. That's my spiel. And then, whoever the Avs play next, it remains to be seen. But it's good to know that this entire panel has the Avalanche winning the series, because I think last year that was not the case heading into Winnipeg. So we are already more confident this season than we were last season going into the playoffs, which says something about what GM Chris McFarland has done with this roster, and what Jared Bednar has been able to do with the 48 players that were suited. I believe
49.
it was 49.
Well, it's really 50 if you count Mandalese as a goalie, or if you count Landeskog.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Winnipeg is definitely moving on.
Yeah.
I can't even remember who the heck they're playing, but they are moving
St.
on.
Louis.
They're playing St. Louis, man. I don't know, bro. Honestly,
it's the playoffs. You really can't say definitely about really anything.
And speaking of, Minnesota's getting Kaprizov back, and
Eriksson Ek too.
Eriksson Ek, like and they were the best team in the league to start the season. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but they were very good when they were healthy. So
Hashtag no cups.
The hashtag no cups, yeah, baby. But there's a lot of intrigue on the West, especially for this year's playoff series. It's going to be a lot of fun. And folks, we will have you covered all the way through the Stanley Cup final. We will keep doing episodes, even if the Avalanche aren't doing episodes of their own in round 2, 3, and 4. We will still be here. But thank you so much for the 1,500 of you for tuning into today's episode. We have one last thing to take care of, which is our bold predictions, folks. If you haven't heard about this, it's our favorite part of every show. It's where we boldly predict something that will happen in the near future before the next episode. If you are correct, you earn yourself a little ding. Sounds like that. And if you are wrong, you earn yourself the classic, there it is, buzzer. And so last week we had a few bold predictions. Let me pull that up real quick. And if you didn't watch the show, last week was our 100th edition. We gave away some playoff tickets. We gave away a mini stick. We gave away a gift box. It was an absolute blast. Go to our Spotify catalog and Apple Podcasts if you want to check that out. It's available right now, and it's on our YouTube channel. So, bold predictions. Ezra, you said Scott Wedgwood would get a shutout. I don't believe that happened, unfortunately. Nope. Jackie, you said somebody in the AHL this season will score a goal and then assist a goal. There will be an assist from an AHLer. I think we got the goal. Yeah, we didn't get the assist. The goal was Wyatt Amat, of all people. We talked a lot about him on episode 100, actually, and then he went on and scored.
I think we specifically said it wouldn't be him.
Yeah, we did. We did. We said it would be Tynan because that was a part of mine. I said either Lehkonen will play and have 2 goals or TJ Tynan will play and have
I would
1.
never make that my bold prediction. Tynan.
Evan,
but by making it AHLers, I guess I made it possible.
Evan, you said that Landeskog would play in Ontario. Wrong button. Just about to sing.
That means I should just leave because my bold prediction was so bad.
Yeah.
So, see ya.
And Brandon, you said that the Eagles would clinch the Pacific Division. I believe that did happen. Yes.
No, they still have not.
They still haven't. They have 2 games to do it.
Oh, but they're in the running still. They need a point.
They're on the verge, but it hasn't happened yet.
And then Peterman
got to beat Tucson tonight or tomorrow.
Okay. And then Peterman, our esteemed listener, Mr. Peterman, who earlier said, what's better, a wild card or an X factor? Because a wild card could be anything. It could be an X factor. That's very true. That's why it could have been both, Peterman. But last week you predicted that TJ Tynan would get an assist. I don't believe that was the case. So you've earned a ding before on our show, but this time you earned a buzz. All right. Well, that just leaves this week's playoff edition of Bold Predictions.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I call that bold talk.
All righty. Well, as usual, let's go ladies first. Jackie, what you got for me?
I'm going with the old standard. I'm going with what I want to see.
Nice.
Which is Sam Girard scoring a goal. So that's what I want to see. So that's my bold prediction.
I like it because every playoff, the Sam Girard sucks crowd comes out because he's small, and it just, I guess, optically looks like he doesn't fit because of that. But if he gets a goal early on, maybe we can sway and keep those folks at bay at least a little bit.
Then Malinsky doesn't fit because he's roughly about the same size.
Yeah, right. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Evan, let's go with you next. We got a Sam Girard goal. What do you got for me? Your bold prediction.
Well, it's actually funny that you bring up Sam Malinsky because that's who my bold prediction is going to be about. So thank you, Brennan.
You're welcome.
I'm going to say in the first 2 games in Dallas, because I think that's we'll probably do our next show in between game 2 and 3. I'm going to say he gets 3 points.
Ooh. 3?
Because he's got a wicked shot, and I could see him playing up the lineup if like Manson is still struggling to come back from injury.
I love it. My bold prediction was going to be 1 point for him.
Oh,
so.
Hang on.
I'm changing mine. I'm changing mine now because Evan took it. But man, I love that.
Well, I mean, if all of this happens so far, the next week's episode is going to be called I Am Sam. Ezra, what is yours this week?
Man, I think I'm gonna stick to the defense, and I'm gonna say Eric Johnson There's no goals scored by Dallas with Eric Johnson on the ice,
So he'll be plus, basically,
or a zero.
or a zero. Zero.
But also, I'm including shorthanded.
I was going to
He's
say,
not on
even
the
on
ice
the
for a goal.
PK.
Wow, even shorthanded. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
say that's bold.
Well, does it count if he's sitting in the press box?
Yeah.
I was gonna
On
say,
the
I
ice.
know my Sam's gonna play.
Yeah. He's got to be on the ice is the qualifier there. So cool. By the way, Ezra, did Kovalenko score 3 points?
Oh, I
No.
don't think so. I think I got that season long one right.
Yes, you did. You are wicked smart, my friend. Congratulations. Good for you.
Sounds like Kovalenko's unhappy in San Jose also, which
Sounds like, I mean, he was pissed off that he got lumped in with Georgiev, huh? He's like, I'm going back to the KHL.
honestly he might. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you had another season-long prediction that I want to address real quick because the season ended finally. You said that Drouin would finish a point-per-game player. He was just 5 points short of that.
Yeah, that late season injury.
Yeah.
Which, if I remember correctly, Durant and Nichushkin played the exact same number of games,
Mm-hmm.
and Durant ended up with more points.
Yes, he did.
Wow.
He did. And I think that's another season-long one. Oh, no, we got to that one last week, so we're good there. All right.
I'll claim my. I don't think it was an official, but I remember I said Columbus wouldn't be terrible. So
Yeah,
I feel
you
good
did.
about saying that they were going to kind of rally around the tragedy and have a decent season. So I'm going to claim that one
Okay.
as a good season long one. But
And then Sarah Hernandez from the comments. Thank you, Sarah, for tuning in, for contributing. She said Wedgie gets a start in the next 2 games. That's a bold prediction.
okay,
Kat.
yeah, we'll count
That
that.
is a bold prediction. And let's see. So we got Sam, and now we have an Eric Johnson will not give up a goal while he is on the ice, power or shorthanded or not. Brandon, what you got for me this week?
So Eagles have 2 more regular season games this weekend. I'm going to go with J-Mac will have 3 goals.
Whoa.
Wow.
And
add to his
congratulations.
record.
Yes, I was going to say, and
Mhm.
congratulations to J-Mac, who has 30. This was like the first time ever an AHL and an NHL team have both had 30 goal scoring defenders. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then he also broke a 25-year-old record.
Yeah.
John Slaney from 99 2000 from WAS Penguins
That's awesome. That's really cool.
had 30 goals, and he scored 2 in 1 game to get 31.
That's awesome. Good for him. So you're saying he's going to finish with 34, basically.
Yes.
Wow. That would be a tough record to beat in the future, especially considering how long it took for the old one to get broken by McDonald. So
I'm glad he did it as an actual defenseman and not as a forward.
Yeah, that and the only reason I think he didn't get called up instead of Wyatt Amont, and congratulations to Wyatt, but is because he was still recovering from that concussion issue after this nasty hit. What was it, against San Jose?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is dirty hit that San Jose had.
This was crazy.
Yeah, and there was no call on the play.
Insane.
Yeah. That's
He got
one of the
double
things.
teamed. You don't see that.
I
right?
was worried about that when Landeskog came back, so I'm happy none of that came to the surface while he was out. It seemed like you mentioned that Henderson was kind of checked out already.
Checked out, and there was a lot of respect.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, well, that just leaves me. We got a Sam Alinsky having 3 points in 2 playoff games from Evan. J-Mac will get 3 goals for the Eagles from Brennan. Sam Girard with a goal from Jackie, and Eric Johnson will not be on the ice for a goal against from Ezra. I'm sticking with what I tried to go with last week, which is the story and saga of Arturi Lekkonen's struggles. But let's not forget, this dude sent 2 different teams to a Stanley Cup final, and also simultaneously scored the game-winning goal for the Avalanche in 2022 in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup final against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So it's not too much of a stretch to say that this guy knows how to play in the playoffs. So my prediction is that over the next 2 games, Artturi Lehkonen will have 4 points.
Love it.
Yeah, I just think he's going to
I'll
save
go
the
for that.
Magic for when they really need it.
We have
When that
a-
Game 7 comes out, like you said,
Yeah.
I think that's when we see the magic of Lecky come back.
I thought it was really interesting. Multiple outlets, to include DNVR and Gorilla Sports, had the sound bite of basically, I think it was Jesse who asked Lehkonen, "Have you texted Mikko ahead of the series?" And he just said no.
It's a very thin answer.
Yeah, and
Like,
honestly, you think back and you call back to Lehkonen's. Remember the whole drama with Lehkonen's dad saying that Mikko Rantanen kind of loafed in the offseason and everything? Like, what once was a great friendship, I can imagine has now soured into kind of like a, yeah, we're cool, but you left me, bro.
I don't think it means that. I think it means he's a Finn, and you asked him a question, and he gave an answer.
Yeah,
and I think
it's
very
a very
American,
European, just straight answer.
I think it's very American, very North American to try to read into like vibe and context. And I just think Europeans are more direct, especially stoic Finns. Just answer no.
Yeah. Well,
I agree. I do think it speaks to there's no time for friendship in the playoffs. I
Right.
think
That's
what it
kind of
says. Yeah.
Right. Like even brothers aren't going to text each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they're going to be cool in the off season, but right now, no need for that.
I agree with that. And, I will say too, before we head out, because I know we're dragging on a little bit here, but one last thing I want to talk about and just ask real quick from you guys is, do you think that there will be the old team thing will be a bonus to Mikko or a negative in terms of his mental game? Evan, you just real quickly.
Yes, because I guess no, because I think that he will become another Av killer because everyone loves scoring against the Avs. So
Okay,
no, it will not affect his mentality. I guess
Okay.
is the answer. Yeah.
Brandon, yes or no? Will it affect him negatively in terms of his mentality? No. Positively?
Players are good at blocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, players are just good at blocking stuff out sometimes.
Ezra and Jackie, are you both a no as well?
Correct.
Yeah.
I
agree
think
with
that 3.5% shooting at 5-on-5 is going to turn around.
Yeah. I, for one, think, and maybe this is my North American love for trash TV like Jersey Shore coming out.
Oh my
God. It's, to me, it has to be one or the other. It either is a driving force that makes him want to win more, or it's a thing. Because here's my question. You guys think that Jamie Benn and the gang are pulling punches in film room and speaking with respect about the likes of Nathan McKinnon and Landeskog? Or do you think that there's a little bit, just like in every locker room, a little bit of some punches being thrown, and to that point, what does Mikko do in those situations? Where is Mikko at during those situations? And so I'm just saying it might make for a weird division in the locker room, or Mikko is completely gone to the dark side, in which case I'm scared.
I don't think Jamie Benn is capable of respect.
Exactly.
But I do think like there is one thing that could drive a real wedge in that locker room, and that's if somebody does something stupid to Landeskog.
Yeah.
Rantanen's
Right.
not going to let that fly.
100%.
But he is there to win, and he is
Yeah.
a competitor, and he is. Other than that, I don't think anything could be an issue.
I just want to point out the paradigm that could and possibly exist within that locker room as a result of all of this. So I'll let you guys on the next episode dump on me when none of that becomes apparent and Mikko just destroys us. But it's something to key on, in my opinion. Like I said, I watch a lot of the Anonymous, too hot to handle. So maybe that's just what's coming to the forefront right now. No, that's actually the show that I watch out of the corner of my eye because my wife watches it.
Does she even watch the international versions?
Oh yeah, she loves the international versions. Those ones are better. It's most
I'm a
of the time.
Netflix fan, so I know about all the Netflix shows.
I just think Miko's going to be gym tan laundering sooner than later.
Oh, there we go. And that's how we do it around here at the Mile High Hockey Lab. GTL for Miko early. Hope you got your golf ready, bud. But let's see how things go. Please, God, don't clip that if the Avalanche lose. Let's see how things go, folks. There are 1,700 of you tuned in live right now, watching me put my foot in my mouth potentially. So thank you so much. Please give us a follow on your preferred social media platform, and download and subscribe to all of our content on Spotify Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. And let us know what you think and how we're doing. And if you have any questions, please send them our way. It's been a wonderful time with the four of you, Ezra, Jackie, Evan, and Brendan. I really appreciate your time. I know we went over by like a half hour, to be expected with a playoff episode, though. Brendan, you don't look all that enthused, but I love you. So on behalf of Ezra, Jackie, Evan, and Brendan, I'm Adrian Hernandez. This has been the Mile High Hockey Lab. We'll see you after Game 2. Until then, go Avalanche.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.